Welcome to Slapshot Podcast, episode number 106. I'm your host, Christopher Morais. Thank you for being here. Thank you for hanging out. Welcome to the last few weeks of the NHL regular season. It's gonna be a fight till the end, man. We are not going anywhere. There's lots to be jockeying for still. Lots of playoff spots still up for grabs. I mean, damn, the whole Pacific Division still up for grabs. But listen, I appreciate all of you hanging out with me here. If you're watching this over on YouTube, I appreciate that. Go ahead, hit the sub button, ring the bell. Maybe you're listening to this because you enjoy that. You're listening to it on Apple Podcasts. You're listening to it on Spotify. I appreciate that. Go ahead, drop a follow there, drop a like. Make sure you do so. This is our first episode since the live stream that we did for NHL trade deadline. Massive W's. First of all, Adam Bernard, who joined us, right? Because listen, there were no trades. Very little trades. So it was nice to have him company, ripping some packs, ripping some hockey cards. Also, I know this is not breaking news, but if some of you in Canada know, McDonald's has their hockey, like the mini hockey sticks collection. I've got them all. They're over here, right there. Yes, they're over there. All 7 of them. I got all 7. I got 6 out of the 7 organically, which means I bought a McDonald's meal to get the sticks. One of them I traded. I had to trade for Sam Reinhart. I had an extra Auston Matthews. So it was Matthews for Reinhart. The deal was 1-for-1. I appreciate I mean, he was basically a child. I appreciate the child trading that for me. On my way home, I was like, hey, I'm hungry. Why don't I get 2 more? I pulled an extra Quinn Hughes, and I was like, that's great. And then I pulled a Cale Makar. That was the one I was missing. And I was ecstatic. I jumped. I scared Milo, by the way. And he was like, oh, my God, did I do something? I was like, no, homie, we're good. We got them all. So, segue conversation there, but I got them all. But, yeah, we opened some of those, the first couple of them, right on the live stream. You can go back and watch it. Big thanks as well to the sponsor of that, my boy Cameron from Chef Camo Co. If you need any meals prepared, listen, you don't like to cook, you don't want to cook, make sure you go over to Instagram, chef.camo.co, and just slide into the DMs and order. You know, he's got a menu up there, all types of entrees, meals, desserts. Make sure you get yourself one. All right, why not? Listen, I had some great buffalo dip. I had a sub that I had to eat later. I had something else. I forget what he called it. It was fantastic. But go back, watch it if you haven't already. All right. Make sure you go ahead and you do so. Now, we are going to get to the news of the day? News of the week. Let's go with that. This is what you may have missed since the last time we had a conversation. It's only some notable stuff. We're going to get through some deeper stuff as well. Brendan Gallagher, listen, 900 games in the NHL. He was recently benched. I don't want to say a bench. He was a healthy scratch. And that was against San Jose. I've been very public about how Brendan Gallagher is not the problem. There are other individuals that are the problem on that team. It's not Brendan Gallagher. But I also understand that his body is getting older. And he was never the fastest guy. But nobody could ever criticize Brendan Gallagher for how hard he works. You will not find somebody who works harder than him. Like, you know what you're getting from Brendan all the time. So they gave him some rest. It is what it is. The last time he was a healthy scratch, by the way, was in his rookie season for opening night. That was the last time that he played 899 games in a row. But listen, he was back against the Ducks. You know, that game was what it was, but, you know, comes back against Boston. And again, that fourth line, you know, with himself and Deneau, they were clicking. Brendan Gallagher deserves his spot there. I know the goals may not be there, but we've already touched on this. You can go back and watch it in a previous episode. Like, Brendan Gallagher's been unlucky. It is what it is at this point, but he's not the problem. Maybe he sits a couple more times. If anything, it's to make sure that he is healthy come a hopefully long playoff run. So it's not what he wants to hear, but like some tough choices have to be made. And, we're starting to see them in record time. But listen, congratulations to Brendan Gallagher. He's earned all 900 of those games. Next stop is 1,000. Speaking of milestones, our boy Cole Caufield, he is the first Habs player since Vinny Damphousse, I think in 93, 94, 92, 93, 93, 94, one of those years, to score 40 goals. I remember when people were chirping. We got receipts. You don't think this show has receipts? We have them. Of a lot of people going, oh, yeah, Cole Caufield, the greatest 40 goal scorer to never score 40 or, never score 30. Guess what? He has now scored 40. You cannot take it away from him. He has officially joined the 40-goal club. Guess what? 50 is not out of the question just yet. He has been on an absolute tear, okay? Since, I think it was January 2nd. This tweet came up somewhere. Since January 2nd, which was when the United States announced their Olympic team, no player has scored more goals than Cole Caufield. He's got 20 since January 2nd. So 50 might be he's got the Habs have, I think, 16 games left. He's got to score 10 and 16, which sounds like a lot. But listen, if we pencil him in for a goal every Saturday, because that's when he scores his goals, it's going to be close. It's possible, but it's going to be close. But give him all the credit, man. He is a prolific goal scorer. He's only getting better. And this is a reminder, if guys with skill who can score a goal, doesn't matter how tall they are. All that matters is that you put the puck in the back of the net, and Cole Caufield knows exactly how to do that. So congratulations to him as that. Listen, not so congratulations, I guess, to Jack Hughes, who said something not very bright on the internet. He will not. He said he doesn't understand how he doesn't have the puck from the Olympic gold medal game, right? The Hockey Hall of Fame, which is where the puck is, by the way. I just want to make sure Jack understands this, okay? The hockey puck is in the Hockey Hall of Fame. Okay? He couldn't understand why that was the case. He will not be getting it. The Hockey Hall of Fame spokesman came out and was like, hey, man, they're just like, it's going to be here. And listen, we're not going to talk poorly about the United States, and, we're just not going to do that. But, Jack Hughes complaining that he doesn't have the puck, and then, there are other players like, I don't know, Sidney Crosby, who scored probably the biggest goal in Canadian history, never once crossed his mind. He was asking questions, like, never once crossed my mind. It deserves to be in the Hockey Hall of Fame, which is true. Listen, Jack, you scored a goal. That puck is not yours. It's not yours. Actually, the puck literally says on it, it's property of the National Hockey League. it's right on it, or part of the IOC and stuff like that's where it's going to be. You get to keep the gold medal. Congratulations, right? And I know, listen, some people are just figuring out the Hockey Hall of Fame is in Toronto. Yeah, that's where it is. You can go visit it at any given time, just like you can go visit the Stanley Cup if you want. But there are lots of historical, can we call them artifacts? Memorabilia from over 100 years of hockey there. That's where it deserves to be. It is the Hockey Hall of Fame. Don't think it's not the National Hockey League of Fame. It's the Hockey Hall of Fame. So it celebrates hockey all across the world. That's where that puck should be, right? It's great for U.S. history. And it deserves to be there in the Hockey Hall of Fame. But that's where it's going to stay, Jack. All right? You just found out that a hockey puck is at the Hockey Hall of Fame. Listen, congratulations, man. That is the news. That is maybe what you might have missed since the last time we spoke. There's also some other stuff we're going to get to here. Two main topics. Let's go with that, all right? Two main topics here. Let me pull it up. We're going to talk about injuries, but for two different reasons, okay? Let's start with the Auston Matthews news, okay? So if you live it under a rock, Auston Matthews got hurt. And I think the way it happened, right, a little bit concerning because Radko Gusdas decided to plant his knee into Auston Matthews' knee, which has resulted in a knee injury for Matthews. I think there was a tear. Don't ask me what CL ligament it was. I know it's not an ACL. I just don't know if it's an MCL or a PCL. And because I'm not a doctor, like, all I know is there was a tear. It's a grade 3, which is like on the scale of, like, I think it goes 1, 2, 3. 3 is like the worst. No good. No bueno. So he is done for the year. I don't know how else to put it. This is poor timing if you're in fantasy hockey like me, because fantasy hockey players are coming up. If you're the Leafs, this is probably good news because you need to finish in the bottom 5 so that you're not sending Boston your first-round pick. Right? Remember the Brandon Carlo trade from not this trade deadline, the one before, when I was like, hey, imagine trading a first-round pick and Fraser Mitten for Brandon Carlo. Who could have thought that was a terrible idea? And that's without knowing. I don't think the Maple Leafs thought they would be in this position where it had to be top 5 protected, but still, that was a colossally terrible trade. So the Leafs are probably hoping that things happen, but you don't want it to go that way with one of your best players getting hurt. And a lot of controversy around it because Radko Gusdas was given a 5-game suspension. Okay. It was an over the phone, right? So there's 2 ways you can get suspended in the NHL. There's an in-person and an over the phone. An in-person means you can hand out more than 5 games. And over the phone is just like max is 5, right? And there's some outdatedness here to this, but Connor McDavid obviously came out and kind of, I wouldn't say challenged it, but he did kind of say, look, maybe the process has to be adapted. And I don't think he's wrong, right? And a lot of this stirred from the conversation that George Parros was having. The NHL GMs and Gary Bettman are meeting at the Board of Governors or something. So player safety was being mentioned. George Parros was there. He spoke to the media, and George Parros was kind of, doing the part that George Parros has to do, which is saying, listen, these are tough decisions and there's a whole board and we talk about it and we try to give suspensions that are fair and appropriate, and nothing he said was incorrect. He's right. On the other side, you got Auston Matthews' agent, right, who basically came out and said, that's a joke. And then George being like, yeah, I mean, listen, is this the first time we've heard a player agent go off when one of their players gets hurt? No. And it's not going to be the last time. I mean, how many times have we heard Alan Walsh say something or tweet something? Right? Player agents are there to protect the players. It makes sense. I mean, shit. Matthews' agent seemed more angry than the Maple Leafs did in the exact moment it happened because they didn't want to fight anybody. They ended up coming back to win that game. But, I mean, oh, man. The Maple Leafs, like, you know what I mean? They don't care about each other. That's not a team. They're not close. But anyways, that's a whole different topic here. So, in light of what McDavid said, I do believe that the Department of Player Safety is kind of a joke. And I'm putting it nicely. Okay? You have former players. There are former players, George Parros being one of them, right, on this committee. And they're, I wouldn't say policing, they're policing the NHL. But it's kind of like players policing players. And that usually doesn't lead to anything positive. I think that's fair, right? That's why we have the instigator rule in hockey, right? We don't let players police themselves. It's kind of for good reason. But at the same time, there's this notion that, first of all, does anybody know what, like, if a player does something, there's very little criteria into what merits an in-person and then like an over the phone. First of all, let's get rid of that. Imagine thinking any of that matters. Do you think, first of all, if a player is granted an in-person hearing, like meeting, he can decline and just not go, right? So you can do it over the phone no matter what. Listen, we're 2026. We lived through a whole era called COVID. Just set up a Zoom, man. It's okay. You know what I mean? It's okay. Offer him a Zoom meeting no matter what. And listen, if the player wants, bring the agent, bring the team. I don't care. Doesn't matter. Let the player defend himself. I have no problem with that. Okay? It's like showing up to court. You know? Bring your legal representative if you want. Right? For the player who is getting suspended, let's say. Okay? And then they can make an argument why their client is guilty. It's not as guilty as it seems. But the Department of Player Safety and the NHLPA, for that matter, don't forget, the Players Association here protects the victim and the aggressor. Okay? So they have an extremely fine line of things that they have to do. Okay? They have to, Milo's just going off on it. I guess kids are walking across the street here. But they have to protect Auston Matthews and they have to protect Radko Gusdas. That is what the Players Association is there for. So if they suspend Gusdas too much, they can appeal. Now, my solution to this is that we take this completely out of the NHL's hands. In terms of suspensions and stuff like that, you have an independent committee that is not made up of players, by the way. Okay? And you let them hand it out. And we come up with some type of guidance as to if you commit this crime, there is a mandatory, I don't know, X amount of games, and then it can be reviewed. Okay? Now, I know some people don't want to go down this path. I get it. But, like, Evgeny Malkin got suspended 5 games for his slash on Rasmus Dahlin. And then the first thing I thought about, I don't know why this came to my mind, but I forget who he slashed. But remember when Jacob Trouba just like whipped his stick around when he was a Ranger and hit somebody and that got a fine? Or earlier this year when Matthew Barzal, I forget who he went after, but just absolutely tried to take out somebody's feet with like a lumberjack hack and got a $5,000 fine. Like what's the line? Where's the line? Right? What is the part or the criteria that says, hey, this is worth 5 and this is worth a fine? It's as frustrating as goaltender interference. No clue if it's going to be a goal or not, but stick around. We'll find out. That's basically what Connor McDavid is saying. There's no structure. And I'm sure that the Department of Player Safety has some type of criteria, and like if players have committed crimes in the past and, you know, if they're repeat offenders, and sure. But listen, the NHL is a rule book. Apply it, right? If you get thrown out for a slash, it's got to be severe enough that you're hit with a mandatory suspension. And you can say, hey, if it's a slash to the body or slash to the hands and it's severe enough, it's this. If it makes contact with the head, it's this. And this is the same thing for other different types of parts to make players aware. If this happens, like, you're on the board for it. You're responsible for your body. If you want to lead with your knee, good luck. Like, kneeing is an actual, like, it's a penalty in the NHL. It's a penalty. And if I'm not mistaken, I think Gusdas got thrown out of that game as well. So you can apply this. And listen, I dug a little bit deeper because a lot of people, listen, Radko Gusdas gets a bad rap. I'm not I'm not saying what he, like, let's leave the Olympics out of it. Let's leave Sidney Crosby out of this because that's Olympic hockey. That's a whole different sphere here, okay? This is Radko Gudas's suspension history. Now, some of you are thinking it's going to be a long one. It's actually not, okay? This is his suspension history. Let's look at this. So, December 2015, he gets 3 games for an illegal check to the head of forward Mika Zibanejad. He was still with the Senators. And then 2016, 3 games for boarding Auston Matthews. Okay. 10 games for slashing Winnipeg Jets forward Matthew Perreault in the head. So we've established that 10 can be given. Now, 15, 16, like that was like, can you see in like a span of 3 years? He just like, he seemed like he tried to hurt people. So then he cooled off. He took 2018 off. He was like, hey. And then 2019, he gets 2 games for a high stick on Tampa Bay Lightning forward Nikita Kucherov. He was clean after that. He went basically, what, 20, 21, 22, 23, 24, 25, almost 7 years without getting suspended again before the most recent one against Auston Matthews. So, like, here's what I'll say. Like, if you're a repeat offender, it's got to be bad. You know what I mean? The NHL rulebook's got to be like, if you've committed an offense in the last X amount of time, like it automatically tacks on a game or something, or another one, or another one. You know what I mean? And then it's like, clean up your stuff. And maybe we got to change how much we're fining players, right? Because $5,000 fine is pocket change. Is pocket change. You think if Kirill Kaprizov gets suspended, $5,000 is going to hurt him? Buddy, he's walking around with $5,000 in his sweatpants wrapped in an elastic band. You know what I mean? It's chump change. It doesn't matter, okay? Now, again, like, I'm not going to give Gudis, I'm going to give him a little bit of the benefit of the doubt here. He did clean up his act. And listen, he's done things that have been very much on the line. But the reason we don't know if 5 is enough or not is because there's no structure in place. And you can't have former players policing it. Like, it doesn't work. So you need an independent committee, the same way we have it for arbitration in sports. It's literally a judge. It's a judge. And then they decide. I'm not saying you have to get a judge to hand this out, but an independent body, right? You put together a committee. You could find those people. They exist. And then put together, like, strengthen the rule book and say, hey, man, if you do this, like, you're cooked. And we see this already in the IOC, right? Or IIHF. And I know we like to dunk on them pretty often, but listen, the IIHF, if they're bad, they're consistently bad. And the rules are as black and white as you can get. There's no, like, maybe I don't listen. You touch him in the neck, you're done. And some people don't like it. And at some point, you got to be responsible for yourself in the same way that you have to be responsible for your stick when it comes to a high sticking. You're responsible for it. If you're swinging your stick and it hits somebody in the face, listen, intent doesn't matter. So if you're going out there and you're leading a check with your knee, listen, sucks to suck, man. Don't do it. You're responsible for your knee. I believe Connor McDavid is correct. Right? It's got to change. And some teams are not going to like it because they have guys who are probably going to be natural offenders. But the current state, you don't know what's happening. You don't know, right? It could have been 5. It could have been 15. We wouldn't have known. I think there has to be some structure. There has to be a committee in place and say, hey, man, if you do this, like, what happens if you get, like, suspended and then you get a fine? Well, maybe it's like after 2 fines, you get suspended. Like, stop doing stuff that's dangerous. I don't know. First of all, you got to take significant money out of players' pockets in order for them to start caring. You know what I mean? They fight so hard for their contracts. Hit them where it hurts. Take the money. Let's go. Take their money. But listen, tough. The current system needs to change. I'm not smart enough to figure it out, but what George Parros is doing now is not working. I wouldn't go as far as Alan Walsh saying it's a kangaroo court, but, I mean, there's no structure. Next guy's going to do it, and we're going to have no idea if it's going to merit an in-person or an out. But, again, let's get rid of the over-the-phone or the in-person. Just, it doesn't matter how you meet. You can be suspended 1 or 82 games. It doesn't matter if it's over the phone or not. Just attend a Zoom meeting. Let's make it easy, all right? Next, we're going to go, let's go to Leon Draisaitl, who, thankfully, he didn't get run illegally by somebody else, but he did get hurt. It's bad enough that he's going to miss the rest of the regular season. Snobov has come out and said he's not there. The Oilers are in shambles, and that's putting it lightly. Connor Ingram is starting for them. Tristan Jarry can't stop a beach ball. Now McDavid's got to carry this team. Okay, and again, if you're playing fantasy hockey like I am, you're cooked. Listen, if in some way, if you're losing Auston Matthews and Leon Draisaitl right before playoffs are starting, might be hard. Might be hard to keep the motion, but don't worry. The good news is the Oilers don't have a ton of good players. So someone's got to step up, okay? Someone's got to step up here. Now, don't worry, okay? I found some. Well, that's not true. I found what, okay? A fantasy hockey focus segment, if you will, okay? I know we don't do a ton of those, but those are important still. So, the Oilers now have a massive gaping hole in their lineup. I can't remember it. Did they win yesterday? They were playing San Jose, so I believe they beat San Jose like 5-3. They did. They beat San Jose. Whew. Okay. But now the Oilers have a massive hole. So, how do we replace him? Now, the good news is that you don't. You do not replace Leon Draisaitl. Okay? But we can kind of turn this into Moneyball. You ever seen the movie, the baseball one, right? Who's the guy that they try to replace? What is it? Is it Damon? Giambi. Sorry. Jason Giambi. Remember, you can't get another one, but you can try to recreate something, right? And remember what, I forget his name was, right? It's about getting on base. Well, in fantasy hockey, it's about volume and opportunity, okay? I've stressed this before. I'll stress it again. Somebody else is going to hear it. It's about volume and opportunity. So, there's lots of opportunity going around in Edmonton because now you got a gaping hole. Okay, so how do we fix that? How do we fix it? Well, here's the good news, okay? Let me, this is the Edmonton Oilers lineup post Leon Draisaitl injury, okay? It's courtesy of our good friends over at Daily Faceoff. So, this is what their lineup looks like. It's not great, okay? It's not great. They went out, they did all these moving parts and whatnot, and they brought in Dickinson and, Murphy and all these other guys. But it's not going to matter. Here's what I will say. You're not getting Connor McDavid, Zach Hyman, or Ryan Nugent-Hopkins off the waiver wire, okay? I think we could agree with that, right? We're not going there. There are some other pieces. Now, you could, in an ideal world, go out there and maybe add Jason Dickinson if you wanted to. But he's got no offensive upside. Jack Roslovic may be owned. May not be. I don't want to go down that path just right now. Here's what I am interested in, okay? Especially with the Oilers. The Oilers have one of the most lethal power plays ever assembled, I would say. It cooks. So I want exposure to that. If you play daily fantasy, you already know this. You need exposure. You need exposure to opportunities, volumes of players in good situations, okay? The power play right now, this is what they used last game, okay? You see the guy on the left over there? If you're listening to this, I'll tell you who the answer is. Don't worry. Yes. So that's Matthew Savoy, or Savoy, however you want to pronounce it, okay? He's going to get the top look on the power play and on the top unit with McDavid, and Hyman, which is where most of those opportunities are going to come from. Okay? Savoy's going to see a nice little increase here. Now, what he does with it is up to him. If you play fantasy hockey long enough, you have players from the Oilers, you know exactly how this works. Whoever slots in on that top unit or on the left wing, that's the guy we want. So you might have to be a little bit active here. But if you are, good things will happen. This is Savoy, courtesy of Yahoo. He is 6% roster as of this exact moment. I expect that to change, okay? Last 3 games, okay? His ice time is over 16 and a half minutes. He has 3 points in the last 3 games. The shot volume is not there yet, but the opportunity is. And I don't need to remind Oiler fans specifically, but Edmonton is not locked into a playoff spot. So, and the Pacific is wide open. Most teams in the Pacific are not very good. They have holes. They're flawed. Goals will be scored. Savoy's going to get a real chance now down the stretch to make his mark. Okay? So, some good news as well. Duo position eligibility. That's important. Okay? You can slot him in at center. He has right wing in this league that I'm in. Probably has winger eligibility somewhere else. So you can move him in and around your lineup. That's great. He's not taking faceoffs, obviously, but that's not what he's there for, right? Am I expecting him to tear up the league in the last 15, 16 games that the Oilers have? No. But if you're heading into a playoff battle, right, in fantasy hockey and you need a body, again, you cannot replace Leon Draisaitl, right? But you can try to replace a little bit the production and how you build it. This is the first stone, right? Am I going to go out there and say you should add other Edmonton Oilers to the mix? Not yet. Like guys like we had mentioned before, even Vasily Podkolzin, I know he scored yesterday, but you don't need a ton of exposure to the Edmonton Oilers, right? But if you're looking for somebody who is going to get an immediate bump, okay, Savoy is your man. It doesn't take the sting away. I get it. It doesn't fix the sting, doesn't make it better, but listen, what can we do? Injuries happen, man. I personally do not think that Draisaitl will come back before the end of the year. The team said maybe. Like, if they're in a position to make the playoffs or they've locked up a spot, why would you bring him in? To do what? Get hurt? No. You're going to give him as much time as possible so he can be ready in the first round to take on whoever is there. But the first things first is you got to make the playoffs. And the Oilers aren't getting there through strong defense and strong goaltending. They got to outscore their opponents every night. So Savoy's going to be on that top line. He's going to be playing a ton of minutes. You're playing with the best player in the world. Make it work. Okay? So that would be the guy I would add in fantasy. Okay? But you heard it here first. So now you know. Tomorrow this number is going to go up. Don't wait. Right now. Stop. Go ahead and add him in one of your leagues. If he's there, he's sly. Just be like, hey, man, just going to add this guy. Don't worry about it. Don't ask any questions, all right? Do we have anything else? No. Listen, that is it. Ladies and gentlemen, that is today's podcast. As always, listen, I appreciate all of you hanging out with me. Thank you for being here. Thank you for tuning in, hanging out, having a blast. If you haven't already, make sure you follow me on X, okay, at FuzzyChris91. Follow the podcast on X as well, at Slapshot Podcast. Again, head over to the YouTube channel, follow, subscribe, drop a thumbs up on this if you watched it until this point. I appreciate it. You have no idea how much that helps the video go out and hit all the algos. So make sure you do that. Make sure you follow the podcast in an audio form if you enjoy listening to it instead. Apple Podcasts, Spotify, wherever you enjoy your podcast, you can find it there. All right. I appreciate all of you hanging out with me. You guys are fantastic. We're going to talk to each other next week. Listen, season's coming down to an end here, but we're not going anywhere just yet, all right? Thanks for hanging out. I'll see you soon.